Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm Munir Belaid, the co-organizer at Tunis Our User Group, along with Hediat Nani and Amal Tlili. You are so pleased, like recently we have started a new collaboration with Epsilon, and I are so pleased to have Anna Skrzydło from Epsilon today. So she will animate a training session about Arshani. So this is really the time to get familiar with Arshani. So Anna is an IT project manager, business analyst, and Arshani developer with over 8 years of professional experience leading software and data science projects. And she's facilitating like user workshops and applying analytics to solve business problems. She's a regular speaker at industry conferences like WhyR and Data Science Summit. And she's also a dog lover, a salsa dancer, and stand-up comedy fan. So this is so awesome. I'm sure we'll learn a lot from her today.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Let me first share. Where's the share screen here? Let me share my screen. Today, we will have Arshani workshops, and I've prepared the repo for you. I will copy it one more time to the chat so that everyone can get there. So here, this is the repository that we will be using. So the easiest way to get the code, just use code, download zip, unzip this, and just open the RStudio project, and it will be there. I will start explaining what we have here because I shared the link, I think, a few minutes ago, so probably most of you already have the code downloaded. So today we have an hour and a half, and we will basically learn about Shiny. The goal is not to, because I believe it's not possible to just like teach you all the, Shiny functions and so on. So the goal is a bit different. I will show you the basics. So if you have never tried Shiny at all, don't worry, we will start from the very, very basic. And then I will show you some concepts that were actually very useful for me when I started first learning Shiny and I started building my first apps. And the idea is that you will know that concepts from the start, so it will be easier for you to learn further. As I think to actually, as probably with everything, to actually learn Shiny, you need to just spend yourself enough time with the code, with your apps, to just practice the functions, practice the structures, and so on. And today we have in this repo, we will have, maybe I can show you, once you have it downloaded, you probably see those two folders, examples and exercises. Together, we will go through examples, and then you will have some time to solve the exercises. They are, of course, based on what we will be talking about during examples. You don't see solutions yet. I will push all those code that I have here because I have ready solutions for you. I will push that after this workshop today. But I have also that code snippets ready for you. I will be sending you the link. So if you want to be able to accomplish an exercise, you will get the answer right away. And actually, this is important to do the exercises one by one because they are like the exercise number 2 is based on the working code from exercise number 1. So that's why it's important to just have the solutions and then build on top of that. Okay, let me check if I should tell you something more. Yes, here are the prerequisites. So you need to have those 2 packages installed. So if you don't have it yet, you can just quickly copy this and just run it in RStudio. We will have 5 apps. And of course, the first one is the most easy one. And then we will just add on top of that and add new concepts and add some more complexity to the apps. Okay, next parts here I will be discussing at the end of our session. So I think we are ready to start. Maybe one more technical thing. Let me check. Where is the... I'm trying to find the reactions so that we can have, we can show each other that you are ready with the exercises, but I cannot find it right now. So maybe reactions here, but it's only to, I don't know, where is that? Okay, maybe we can find it just later, or we will find another way to check that. Okay, so I think we can start. I hope you already have the code on your computer. If not, then I will be slowly starting and you can finalize downloading the code. So so here, this is the repo. So I'm opening examples, and this is the file that I have opened here. So this is just a code to run all the examples that we have. And the apps are here in the folders. So first I will run library Shiny, of course, to run the library, and I will start with the first example. Okay, so this is our first app. What we will be building, it's just Iris dataset explorer. So we have the x-axis here is always fixed. We have just 3 different species that are available in that dataset, and we can select y-axis, and then the app is of course updated and is showing us different graphs, of course, depending on what variable we have selected. So let's look into the code, how to build such an app. So the basic structure of the Shiny application is UI and server. You can put them both in one file. I recommend starting from such structure to have them actually separately in the in 2 files, and then calling the whole folder. Of course, the names need to be the same so that Shiny can recognize where's the UI and where's the server. Why I recommend having this structure in 2 files, because especially at the beginning, you will be adding new elements to those files, so they will quickly grow. So if you join them in one file, that file will be huge. So it's better to have them separately, and that also splits the logic between the server and UI, so front end and back end. So I think this is a good approach. So what do we have there in the UI? UI is the front end part, so what the user sees. So this is very simple. So we have a fluid page and then 2 elements in that page. We have select input. So this is this part here with this label. And underneath we have plot output. What's important here, the first variable, the first argument in that in these functions, input and output functions, this is always ID, and you need to remember that it needs to be unique, yeah, in a namespace, but for now let's assume that it needs to be unique. This is the label, and here the choices that we have. So the choices are the choices in the drop-down menu here. And now let's take a look at the server part. Here we are reading the library, because this is the ggplot plot, so we need to use this library. And server is a function, and we are creating the plot output. So the way server and UI communicates with each other is through these IDs. So here, as this is plot output, we are using this ID here So Shiny knows that in this output, it needs to display whatever is created here. And the variable ID we are using here as input variable. So it's input, so it's the other way around. So whatever user selects here is passed here as input variable. And it can be used here inside the server. And the creation of the plot is just simple ggplot box plot. We are using iris dataset. The X variable is hard-coded. Actually, it's always species. And the Y variable is the one that user selects in the dropdown. And we are making the box plot. And that's basically it. So now I would like you to create very simple, very basic application. Here, if you open exercises, app 01, and there is instructions. So you will create similar application, but using empty cars dataset. This is just for your ease, for the choices in a dropdown. You should use all the variables that are available in the empty cars dataset, and they are just listed here, so you can just easily copy paste that. What this app should look like. So now you have two variables, variable X and variable Y that the user can select, and just a basic scatter plot that is displayed underneath. Of course, here, if the user opens the dropdown, they can select from all those variables, those that are listed here. And of course, if one of the variables is changed, the plot updates. So let's have 10 minutes. So you can try to solve this exercise. So let's take a look at the solution. I've sent a link on chat to this page, and this is basically the solution. So if you need, you can copy paste it to your code or just check how it should be done. I will also quickly show you the solution. So as I mentioned before, you don't have solutions folder in the repo now. I will push it after the after these workshops, but I will show you how that should work. So we have two variables and plot, and we can modify that. And let's take a look at the code very quickly. So maybe we'll start with the UI. So again, we have fluid page and two inputs. And what was important here to make sure that the ID is unique. So I named the IDs variable X and variable Y. Of course, I will answer the question on the chat in a second. So it needs to be unique. Of course, it doesn't need to be exactly the same, but you need to remember that it needs to be different for those two select inputs. And output plot here exactly the same because I'm using the same ID. And here, again, the library. And I'm preparing the plot here. I'm using empty cars data. And this is the question as string because these inputs, they are returning strings, not the variables. So usually you wouldn't put quotes here. So not strings, but usually you would put empty cars and then just the name of the variable without a quote. And that would work. If you want to put here a string value, as is returned by this input variable X and input variable Y, that's when you need to use this aesthetics string. I hope that answered. If not, then you can ask another question in chat. Yeah, and here as we have, yeah, okay. And here we are just using variable X and variable Y, just those input and the ID from here. And now we have scatter plot, so we are using geom_point. And that's it. Okay. So let's stop it and let's open up number 2. So here it is. So we are coming back to the Iris Data Explorer. So we had only one variable here, and basically the functionality is exactly the same. We have variable species on the x-axis, and it's fixed. It's always the same, and we can change only y variable. But what changed? The layout of the app changed, right? So we have the app title. We have now also a different layout here on this main panel. So we have some settings panel. So this is a sidebar panel and the main panel. And in the main panel, we have the plot. And we also have the plot was improved also a bit. We have changed the sizes here of the titles and the labels, also added a bit of the color. And we added here the title, and the title is also dynamic. So when we change the variable, the title also updates, as you can see. So now let's take a look at the code. I will go to examples, app number 2. So let's first take a look at the UI. So we added title. This title is the title here, Data Explorer. Then we have title panel, Iris Data Explorer, and this is this title. And then we have sidebar layout. So we created that layout where we have sidebar and main panels. So the arguments in the sidebar layout are sidebar panel and main panel. And in the sidebar panel, maybe I can put it side by side. No, you can't see it like that. Okay, never mind. Let me get this back. So in the sidebar panel, we have title, settings panel, then paragraph. So you can see here, right? So we have, this is this title header of this sidebar panel, then the paragraph. Then we have horizontal line. It's not, maybe not visible on the screen share, but there is a very small line just splitting the content of the headers and instructions and the actual settings. And then we have the select input, and this is exactly the same select input as we had before in the app number 1. And then in the main panel, we have text output in the header and the plot output. And this is exactly this and this parts. And now we can open the server. And here, what changed? So here, this part was added. So this is actually a bit of styling of the plot. So theme was changed to classic, and then added some axis, text and title styling. And then we added also a label of variable y, and it's here. It's actually using the variable name, so it's from the input, so it's from this select input, but it changes dot to space, because here in the select input, as you can see, we have those dots. It's not very nice. So here for the title, actually this is for the, sorry, for the plot, for this y variable label, it's changed. So we don't have dots, but we have nice spaces. And this is for the title. So it's this part, right? We have this ID title. And this is doing, so first is it's creating that, exactly the same as here, that nice name of the variable y, and then it's adding by species. So it's actually creating that whole title here. Okay, so the reason, so as you can see, the functionality of those two apps is exactly the same. The reason I wanted to split it and first show you the very raw application and now this with some UI improvements, with some more layout, is that you can see that actually creating the very basic functionality is just, I don't know, 10 or maybe 12 lines of code altogether. Now it's a bit more. We needed to add that layouts and some more settings. This HR, this is a question from chat, gives us the horizontal line, which is here. I cannot highlight it, but if you open this on your browser, this one here, it should be visible. Generally, logically, it should give us the separation between title and instructions and the actual settings. Yeah, so I wanted to show you that the actual functionality, so app number 1 is very short and very basic. And what you will usually see in the examples, they're actually using all that nice things that we are using here, which may add some complexity at the very beginning, but actually it's not. Of course, it's nice for the user to have a very nice application and just application that looks better, but it's not, let's say, necessary to make the app running at the very beginning. And actually what I would recommend you, especially when you are starting building the apps, to start from the very basic and core functionality that your app needs to have, and then build on top of that. Why? Because this will be just much more easy to debug, for example, if something won't be working. If you have just a few lines of code, then if you first start with building all the layouts and you know, all the visual things that aren't the most important, and you have the bug in the logic, then that will be much harder just to get to that bug and find it. Yeah. Okay. So now let's move to exercise number 2. You can copy paste your files, UI and server from the first app. If you haven't finished that, there is a link in a chat with my solution that you can copy. And now what you need to do, you need to just take that app from task number 1 and modify it so that it has this sidebar layout and that it displays the plot title with the variables on the graph. So currently here, the names aren't changed. This is just exactly what's selected here. And let's have another maybe 8 minutes for this part. And again, if you're ready, let me know on the chat. So there is another question. Is the app opening in HTML file site where the file resides in memory? So the UI, so this code, it generates actually HTML page. This is correct. It's not like rendering Markdown. So when you have our Markdown file and you render that, it actually creates the HTML that you can see, you know, that you have in the project. So this is just rendered. It's not like created. It's not creating a separate file. I'm not sure if that answers the question. Has anyone finished, or should we? Okay, one person, 2 people. So let me slowly share the link with you. Okay. So let's move on. Here you will find the solution. And I will also take you through this. So let's open it. Let's first see the app. So this is the app after changes, of course, if you've chosen different color or different styling, it's all fine. As you can see, the functionality stays the same. Here, the title is modified when we change the variables and how that was accomplished. So here in the UI, we have again title panel, and the sidebar layout. And here, heading, paragraph. I also added the horizontal line, but it's not necessary. And 2 inputs. And in the main panel, text output and plot output. On the server side, here, I added very similar code with the theme. And I also added some color here, changed the transparency and size of the dots. And here, this is how I created the title. So I just simply pasted a variable y by variable x. Okay. So let's close it and let's move to app number 3. Okay, here. The app on the front end part, so the UI, it's exactly the same, as you can see. So what changed? So now we will be improving. Let me just open the correct example. We will be just improving the server part. So as I will open the app number 2 for a second. As you can see here, we are using exactly the same function in 2 places, and this is simply copy-pasted. It's not the best programming practice. Why? Because, of course, anytime we would like to change it, we would need to change it in 2 places, basically. So what we will be doing here is we will be creating reactive expression, and we will be having this code here in one place, and then in the label of variable y, and in the plot title, we will be simply reusing that ready variable reactive expression. And how I like to think about reactive expressions and reactive values also, I like to think about them as just variables in a Shiny application. Why? Because in Shiny app, the code isn't linear, right? So if you just create a regular variable, assign something to this variable x, it will be executed just once when the server is built. And then you can use this variable and you can read value from it, but you won't be able to update this value. So it will be actually a constant here on the server side. But if you want to actually have a variable that you are working with throughout the flow of the application and you actually need to update the value of it, then you need to put it inside of a reactive expression or reactive value. So something that is actually reactive, so something that can change inside of the application, so with the flow and act upon, for example, user changes in the application. And how you can think about it, how it works. So generally, Shiny wants always to, maybe I will also open the UI to help me explain that. The UI file is exactly the same, nothing has changed here. So how that works. So Shiny always want to display the most fresh and actual information on a page. So then when the user changes an input here, Shiny registers that. So currently we're using this input here and here. So Shiny registers that this reactive expression isn't valid anymore. So it's not like the value here isn't actual anymore. Also, it also registers that this plot needs to be updated. As this isn't valid anymore, this output also gets that information because this is using the var label. This also gets information, hey, I need to be updated because this isn't valid anymore. So then Shiny needs to update. It needs to update the plot because of a change here and because this isn't valid anymore, and it needs to update the title because this isn't valid anymore. We don't know the order in which Shiny will run those updates. So it can be first plot, then title, it can be first title, then plot, and it can be each time a different order. So we need to be also aware of that. And let's say Shiny decided to first update the title. So it sees that, okay, but first I need to know the current value of var label. So then Shiny recalculates the var label to the new value using the new input variable. And then it changes the state to valid because now it's the most fresh value and it's the one that actually can be used. So then the title is refreshed, is recalculated using the new var label. And then plot is also recalculated using the new input variable. And also as this var label already has the state of valid, it's not recalculated once more because it already was updated and now it's the value stored here is valid. So it just uses the var label as it was recalculated. So this is more or less how you can think about it. I know it can be complicated, and if you don't understand everything, just don't be afraid. I think this is like Shiny code is actually way different than R code, and even if you are mastering R code, I think to understand Shiny very well, you need to again spend some time with Shiny itself. So I think probably you remember when you were learning the raw R code that needed some time. So now you also need to give yourself some time with Shiny to actually understand it very well. So it will just come with time and with practice. So just don't be worried. I just wanted to try to explain to you a bit more what are things are happening like inside of Shiny so that you can understand that better. And there's also a question, and does the Shiny variable name always need parentheses at the end? So here, this is not I call it a variable because this is how how I'm thinking about it. But technically, as you can see, this is a function. So that's why it has the parentheses at the end. So in this way, it needs that parentheses. Is there a way to exclude the first selected variable from the second select input? So the question is if here, so it's for the solutions. So I don't have the code here. So okay, maybe let's start the exercise number 3, and meanwhile I will try to answer the question. So here, the exercise for you is to, of course, use the app from task number 2. and add variable labels in the title of the graph and the axis. So here, so previously we were just using those shortcuts of the variables that were, okay, I'm sorry, I'm just reading the comments, so I need to stop that. So we were using just directly the names of the variables from the data set. Here, this is the dictionary, again, so it's easier for you, so you don't need to come up with your own names. So assigning the name, so let's say the human readable name, to the name from the dataset. And you just need to use those human readable names here in the title of the graph and here in the labels of the axis. And of course, there is, it can be solved in a couple of different ways. For practice, let's try using reactive expressions, so doing something similar to what we did here in this example. Okay, so I'm leaving you with that. Let's take 10 minutes to solve this. I'll just make a note. When time do we finish? And I will try to answer the questions. So is there a way to exclude the first selected variable from the second select input? So let me open. Here, I understand that what you want to do is, for example, if the if this in the first input, let's say this variable is selected, then it's not possible to be selected here in the second one. And yes, this is possible. But then you would need to create this input not here directly in the UI, because this would need to be dynamic there. But you would need to create it either as a render UI. So you can check the render UI function. It's a server function. And then you can inside the same as you are creating a plot, for example, you can create that UI element. And then there you can actually change the choices that you have. So we won't be covering this today, but I think if you check that function, you will be able to do it yourself. And another question, explain more about GSAP code. Yeah, so this one. So what it does, so I will stop it. So yeah, I will also need, or maybe I will. Okay, let's start like this one. So what does the GSAP function does? So it's just replacing a character. And here, this is the character to be found. This is the replacement. And this is the string that we look for that character and that we that is then replaced. So if we have petal x length, we look for x and we will be replacing that with space. So as a result, we are getting petal space length. And as we have dot here, because the variable names that we have in the data set is like that, petal dot length. And if we would do this, we would get empty string. And this is because by default, this function has this setting fixed equals to false, which means that it looks for regular expressions. And in regular expression, dot is just any character. So it just changes each letter to a space. So in order to treat dot as a dot, so not as a regular expression dot, so any character, but actually as a dot, we need to change the value of this argument to true. So here, and that works correctly. So it actually now looks for a dot and changes that to the space. Okay. Okay, so I've shared the results. Where I was here. There is question about session. So you can pass some arguments through session. I won't be like, this is a bit more advanced. I won't be covering this today, but if you can schedule update through that, I don't think so, unless I don't understand the question. But if you mean that you have data stored somewhere in the, I don't know, if in files in the database, I don't think this is the right thing to do, to try to update it like this. But maybe I don't understand the question. So maybe if we have some time at the end, then we can discuss that. And now let me show you the solution. Step number 3. Yeah, so as you can see, it works. The titles and labels are updated. And what happened here? So I added this variable ticked here directly in a server. Why? Because this is constant. So I don't need it as part of the reactive, because then I would need to create it twice. Of course, if you did this, it's okay, it will work. Just slightly better practice is not to repeat your code, right? Because why? If you need to update anything, then if you have it twice, you would need to update it in 2 places. So that's why if it's constant and it's not needed in 2 places, then it's better if it's just like that one level above that. And here, 2 reactives. This was a good suggestion on the chat to create 2 reactives. And how we are using that, we are selecting name of the variable where the variable is equal to input variable X and variable Y. And that's it. This is the solution, and the UI code stays exactly the same. Okay. So let's move to the next example. That will be example number 4. And what changed here? Again, this is not the change on the UI side, as you can see, but we have again change on the server side. So actually on the backend side. So now we will have 3 files, and this is server, UI, and global. And why we need this? So it's not necessary. Like there can be an app that doesn't have global file, and it's correct. But the global file can be very, very useful. How that works? This is just a file that Shiny runs once at the very, very start. So when you run the app, it first runs the global, and then it builds the server and the UI, so the actual application. And everything that is here, so every code that is executed here is just saved in the global environment. So then you can use that anywhere in your code. So you can use it in a server, you can use it in a UI. You can, for example, read all the libraries here so that you don't have part of them in a server, part of them in the UI, for example, but it's clean and you have everything read here in the global. And why I'm using it here in this Iris Data Explorer? Because here in the UI, previously, I can open that even in app number 3. Here, the choices of the dropdown were hard-coded. And now we are just using the variable that can be easily created here in the global. And this way, if I would need to use these choices or these variables anywhere in the code, I just have them saved here. And I don't need to, again, repeat that code. And one note, so these variable choices, they will be, again, you should treat them as constants, right? Because later, of course, it is possible from the Shiny to save something in the global environment. But again, that's not a good practice. Like we can create some mess while doing that. So if you create something in the global, then treat it as a constant so that you can read it in a server or in a UI, but you shouldn't update that values. Okay, so if you make an update to global, do you need to restart Shiny? So if I would like to change anything here, then like I always need to restart Shiny. So I need to stop the previous app, and then I need to run the app once more. So it's not, the Shiny doesn't monitor the global file in any way. It's just run once. Okay. I'm saving that, and you can open exercise number 4. These are the instructions. So now what you will do, you will change also the labels in the dropdown so that they are human readable. So you will use exactly the same names that we were using in a previous exercise. So you can reuse the same dictionary, and you will use them here in the dropdowns, and of course use global file for that. And let's have maybe, because the time's up almost, we have 10 minutes, so maybe let's try to complete it in 5 minutes so that we speed up a bit.
It's okay if you want to have it more than 10 minutes. It's okay for our Zoom account.
Okay.
So as you like.
Okay, so maybe let's have 10 minutes for that, because I have only one more app. So I mean, after this one, so I won't be keeping you very much longer here, so should be fine. Okay, so 10 minutes. So I see a question about the session object. So if, so in a session, we separate different user sessions. That's how I would call that. And we can, for example, pass user data through session. And if your Shiny application is connected with a database, then I think you would set a scheduler on the database side, right? Or if you need to run some calculations on the data, then actually what we do very often is that we write our markdown document with all the data transformations and so on, and we schedule that R markdown, and we schedule it using RStudio Connect, and RStudio Connect has that option to actually schedule running that workflow that will update your data. I hope that helps. Okay, we have 3 more minutes. One person finished, anyone else? Okay, here is the solution with all 3 files. Let's take a look. Just close that and open solutions. Okay, so in the global, I just moved variables dict from server here to global. And then in the server, I'm just simply using this variable. And I also have it here in the UI. And it looks like that. Selected. Perfect examples, but yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's move to the last example. And actually, this is my favorite part of this workshop because this is the app with a bug, and we'll be debugging this. So here, as you can see, something isn't right. We don't see the variable names in the dropdown. Also here in the title, we don't see the variable name. And here the Y label is also empty. So in order to debug, or maybe first I will show you what I added here. So I added a function that's called create label. And this is just using the gsub function to change dot to the space in the variable name. And I extracted it here to a separate function because I want to use it here, but I also want to use it here. So my goal was to change the values in the dropdown so that they also don't have the dot, but have the nice space. So that I don't need to copy paste the function, the gsub function, I just created a separate function that's called create label, and I'm just reusing the function here and in the server in the reactive expression. And one note here. So I created this function in the separate file, in the utils file, and I'm sourcing it here, just the whole file. And so the way it will work, if you source a file, it's just, it's just executed. It's done in global. So it will be all the results, all the functions, and if you create there any data, everything will be saved in the global environment. So that's why I can later access this function also, like I can access it here, but I can also access it directly in the server. Generally, if you are interested in a better solution instead of just sourcing a file, you can use box package for this, for example. I didn't want to use it here because this is not the main focus on this workshop, so I wanted to keep it simple. But generally, if you're more advanced and you're looking for some better solutions, you can use box package that will actually modularize that quite nicely. Yeah, if you just check the package, you will know what's going on there. Okay, but now let's get back to the topic and let's try to debug this application. So for that, we can use the browser function. So how does it work? So in our app, so I already stopped the app, but for example, the title wasn't working. So let's say I want to see what's happening here, and I want to just step inside this, this render text function. So I use the browser function, and then I need to save it, and I need to run the app once more. And then, as you've seen, so it started building the app, but then get to that point where actually the title is being rendered, is being created. So this code is being executed. And as it found the browser function, it just stopped. And now I'm here inside this render text. So I have access to all the values that the render text has access to. And I can basically check the values. So we can see, for example, we can execute this and see what is the result of this paste. And yeah, as we can see also in the apps, something isn't right here. So we can check just the value of var label, and we can see that, okay, something is wrong with the var label because this is returning just an empty string. So we can stop it here. If we click here, we will just close that debugging mode, but we will also close the app or stop the app. And we can take it, for example, here, because we've seen that something was wrong with the var label. So let's check this one. And again, we can run it. And again, it started running, got to this point. So we were taken here to the debugging mode, and we can see, oops, sorry. That this is the create label is actually returning an empty string. We can check the input, and the input is correct, right? So in the input, we have the sepal.length, but after running the create label on this variable, we are getting empty string. Okay, so probably something is wrong in that create label function. So let's get there. And the beauty of browser function is that you can use it anywhere. So not only in the server, but if you have some helper functions that you are using anywhere inside your app, you can also use the browser here. And this is what we are going to do. I will run the app. And again, we are taken here. So let's check this. As you can see, it returns the empty strings. And as the var name, we have correct variable names. So currently we have 4 variable names because actually this is first time this is executed here from the global. And here we are providing the whole vector of labels. If we want to skip to the next execution of this function, you can click continue. And then the app started rendering the next parts. And we are again taken here. And now we are just receiving the name of one of one variable. So this is exactly from here. Okay, and what is happening here? I hope you already know because I explained that. So here, fixed should be true because otherwise the dot is interpreted as regular expression, so as any variable. So then each character, each letter actually is replaced with a space, which of course isn't correct. If we change fixed to true, this is correct. What you need to also remember, if you continue now, this change won't be applied in your app. Even if you try to save this, it won't be like you need to stop the app and you need to run it once more to actually have these changes. So I will stop it. I will run it once more. Oh, I forgot to remove the browser. Okay. And here, everything runs correctly. Okay, so now the last task for you is to also debug the app here, app 05 in exercises. As you can see, when you change if you run this app, I will run it in a second. If you change the variable y, it's not updated here in the title, so you need to find the error. And I will also run this. So here, this title isn't updated. So let's have 5 minutes very quickly to find and fix the error, and I will show you the solution in 5 minutes. And now I will check the question from chat. So the question is, yeah, I can also use this. So no, I cannot use this because I don't have the utils. So I will get back to examples. So here, I created this file, and the question is if there are also other files when we can add some code outside of server and UI and global, I think. So you can, okay, so let's say, reserved shiny names are those three. So these are some special files that are used by Shiny, so UI, server, and global, and utils, and also any other file that you can name my file, for example. You can use, and you can use the content of that file, but you would need to source it somehow. One way, very simple, but not the best, in a way that it doesn't create any modularization. It just loads, especially if you will have a lot of such files and you will be sourcing all of them to the global environment. You can quickly end up in a situation when you will be having the same function names, for example, for like sourced from different files, and they will be overwriting each other. So in this sense, it's not the best practice. But like can be used. The better way to do that is using the boxed package. And then you actually, when you're using boxed package, you can like explicitly state from which module, so from which file function you want to use. So when having a lot of them, that will be a better solution. Okay, we have 2 more minutes to to debug the app. Okay, one person done. Thanks, Bartek. Good to hear that. I'm happy that you were able to accomplish all the exercises. Great, George. Good to hear that. Okay, time's up. Let me share. Sorry, I don't have the link with the solution. I will just quickly debug it with you because we already have the code here. So very quickly, when we are changing the variable y, the title isn't updated. So let's put the browser here. And let's run it. And here, this is the result, but actually in the first run, this is correct. So we have this variable mpg selected twice, so we can continue that. Then we can get back to the app and actually change this variable. And then we should be taken here again, but we are not. So it means that this variable wasn't triggered at all. So we could put it here because this is what we would expect. Of course, you can have different way of thinking, but I'm trying to show you how I would think about it. I haven't stopped the apps, that's why I needed to do it once more. Okay. So the variable y is mpg, so let's again continue that and let's actually change this value to we are here. So now the input variable is actually different and this variable y should get the correct name. So actually this is triggered, so the reactive value is refreshed, but it's just not correctly displayed in the title. So let's get back here once more. And here, I hope you've seen that we are just using variable x 2 times. So this is the error to be found. And we just need to update it here. And now it's correctly updated. Okay, hope Yeah, exactly. Someone also shared it here. Great. I hope you were able to find this issue. Okay, so very quickly at the end, let me get back here to, where is the, I lost my main repo. Here. So in the survey that you were sending to sign up for this workshop, someone asked a question about deploying Shiny apps. So really, really quickly, I just wanted to tell you about 3 different ways that you can do that. I don't know what is the reason, and this is very important, because RStudio Connect, this is licensed product of RStudio, and this is recommended for enterprise Shiny applications. So this gives you a way to manage access, to publish many applications. If you were looking for good, stable solution for enterprise Shiny applications that are used by many users, where you need to manage access and so on, this is the go-to. If you're looking for something simple, for example, just to publish your personal applications or create your portfolio, you can check Shiny Apps.io. It has a free tier for some limited number of apps, and it's a service. So you just publish it on RStudio servers. You can, of course, in that free version, it's limited to like some number of apps, and all the apps are public, so you cannot restrict access. There are some other plans for which you need to pay, and then you can, for example, restrict access. You can have some more features, let's say. Yeah, so also if you want, you can check that. There is also Shiny Proxy. It's open source, so you don't need to pay for that. But it requires a bit more maintenance. It's a bit more difficult to set up. So like depending on your needs, but like everything has advantages and disadvantages. What we use definitely most often, especially for the all enterprise Shiny applications, this is RStudio Connect, and for this I can recommend this one. Yeah, here are the links also, so you can. Yeah, I can see you are typing them. Great. Okay, and some further resources if you want to develop further in this topic. Mastering Shiny book by Hadley, about Shiny from the very start to more advanced topics, also explaining very well reactivity and how it works, how the things are connected. So if you're interested in Shiny, this is very, very, very good book. Advanced R, not directly about Shiny, but if you want to learn about more advanced R concepts that are also very often used in more advanced Shiny applications, this is also a very good book. For example, R6 classes, this is something that we use very, very often in our application. This is not directly Shiny part. This is separate package, and it's also covered here in this book. So if you are also interested in such topic, this is recommended. Shiny Apps Gallery by Epsilon, where this is just source of inspiration if you want to see some applications that are, everything here is built in Shiny. They rather don't look as being built in Shiny. What's interesting about them? If you want to, like this one, for example, it's all built in Shiny. If you look for some inspirations, feel free to explore that gallery. And if you want to become an R Shiny developer, you can also check this talk that I had during WhyR last year. Because R and Shiny, you need to, of course, master them to be R Shiny developer, but there are also some other skills that are very helpful, and I would even say very needed if you want to be successful in this R Shiny developer role. And if you are interested, what are those skills, then you can check this talk. Okay, we are 23 minutes past the time, so I will quickly scan for questions. About cloud platform. If you will open, then you will see, like, generally Shiny Apps IO, this is a service, and the rest you need to build on your machines. For Shiny Proxy, do we need Shiny Server? If you mean the Shiny Server, like the license, I think you don't need, like, it's fully, like, it can be fully free if you want. But to be honest, I think I personally wasn't using that at all. So probably that would need to be checked, because we are based mostly on RStudio Connect. So that's also why I highly recommend that. Okay, I'm not using more time. I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Anna, for this incredible workshop. You did a great job. Thank you all for joining us. I will make sure to share the recording video later via email. And thank you all for attention. And goodbye. Hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.